Nunc est bibendum. Now we all have to drink or something. Yeah. How do I translate it in English? I know the phrasing in German. Is it just the dead greet you or something?
Those about to die.
Those about to die.
Solution. Right.
Recently, in the history of the English language, Grammarly asked what is fiat, and I said it's a car. Because it is a car.
But isn't it interesting that they chose that name for a car and for such a pathetic car as well?
You know what my father says? If you have to choose a car, you should avoid the 3 Fs. Fiat, Ford, and all French.
And all French. Wow.
I just recently, I don't know why, but I got like down the rabbit hole of like mechanic videos or like people repairing cars. And one of them was just like, don't, like a lot of American like mechanics say like, don't buy German cars. They're constructed in so many complicated ways where to like get one screw that is broken, you have to basically take out the whole motor and deconstruct the whole car just for this one screw. I'm like, yeah, okay.
I imagine for an American, it's also a question of, can I get the parts and how cheap are they?
But they had an image of like a German engine. It was just all like metal parts screwed like all around the engine. Like they couldn't deconstruct it at all. They were like all so annoyed.
Yeah, but I think that's only American mechanics. I think if you ask anyone in American, culture, who's got the best car or what car should you be driving if you've got enough money, it's still going to be Mercedes. It's still going to be Audi.
Volkswagen.
Well, see, Volkswagen is seen as okay, but Mercedes is seen as Mercedes.
Fair. I can't get over the like Super Bowl Volkswagen commercial where they started right after Nazi Germany with their description of what they're doing. They had like a historical video in black and white, and it starts in like 1945 or like 1949, right after everything. Like, yeah, we constructed cars for the consumer. We're the nice guys. I'm like,
for the people.
You can't do that.
Wow. Okay. There was also this thing going around. I think VW also advertised with Fahrvergnügen in America, and people were like, hell does that mean? And it sounded like if you take a Fig Newton, which is a cookie, and you throw it, you have a near Fig Newton, and then you have a far Fig Newton after you toss the cookie. It was insane. I couldn't quite imagine why that marketer decided this is the thing we need to do.
I love when certain German like terms are just straightforward translated into English, like Zugzwang, which is Zugzwang, or Schadenfreude. It's also, those are like two terms I've heard Americans say, and it is, for me, it's just so funny every time someone
the same for Zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist.
Gesundheit. I mean, they don't even know it's German often enough, right? It's just a sound.
Or
I mean, I always identified that as German, but I don't know if everybody does.
And I mean, I heard in the movie Miss Congeniality, she would always use Sandra Bullock. She would always say Gesundheit, and then I knew that she was actually German.
I was going to say she speaks fluent German.
She speaks fluent German, but I was like, why would she use that? Like, what's the deal with that? But then I found out that people actually use that as a word. It's and then at some point, Angela used the word Schlepp, and it's like.
Yeah, we've been
is
there,
that German? No, it's not. It's Yiddish, right? Yeah, it comes
it's both, isn't it?
But that's more in American, though, right? Isn't it in British that they hold on more to certain English terms? It feels like it, at least to me, because like I hear more "bless you" in.
Oh. Yeah. Fewer Jewish refugees during the war.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of like German communities in America as well, right? In Texas, I think there's a big German community.
Texans and there's Pennsylvanians and
Texan German. Have you heard it?
I love those people because they're like, we're so German, and I'm looking at them like, no, you're not.
What's that guy's name that used to be on German TV?
Dieter Bohlen. That one guy.
No, the reality show guy.
No.
Rainer something or other, who took his whole family and they moved to Texas, and there was a whole thing.
Don't look at me. I have no idea about German media.
I don't watch German TV.
Fair enough. I don't either anymore, but there was a period when I thought it had some pedagogical value and I was learning the language that I actually did watch this kind of stuff. By the way, reality shows and things like that, chef's kiss for learning language because you hear all sorts of stuff.
You should watch The Discounter. That's fun.
Okay.
It's German humor to its finest.
I think also not only reality shows, but also soap operas are great for learning language.
On the topic of older literature versus newer literature, right? I talked to other students about Big Brother, the show, and none of them knew where the term comes from.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's bad. And I think that's why certain novels or certain literature you need to know what new literature is based on or where certain things come from. Because if you just know the term Big Brother and think it's a cool concept, that's not great.
Yeah, not a cool concept per se. Also, there are phrases like catch-22. Like, okay, does anybody know what a catch-22 really is if we go back to the novel? But people use the phrase all the time. Fair enough. At any rate, greetings, persons of quality, and welcome to this episode of Anglisten Assemble, here with Angela Stock for our Getting to Know You segment. And, of course, with me, as always, is Leon. How you doing, Leon?
I'm doing fine. Hello.
Good. And Kate, lovely to have you.
Good. Thank you for having me here.
We wouldn't be anywhere without you. And
I know.
Angela, also lovely to have you
Hi.
for the very first time.
No, we didn't record this out of order. Not at all.
So yeah, here we're just looking to chat and get to know folks. We've already had the opportunity to get another couple of folks in the British and American Studies department, and we thought it would be a lovely opportunity to get to know you, seeing as we've got to talk to you about the histories module. We want to know more about the person behind the module.
There isn't one. Not really.
I'm just the module.
So, and in order to get us nicely started, we're going to go ahead and do our lightning round, as we've already established with our other Getting to Know You sorts of episodes. So, Angela, hold on tight. Strap in for the lightning round. Question number 1. Tea or coffee?
Coffee overall, but decaffeinated and with oat milk.
Oat milk and decaf. Nice.
So, because I'm a sissy weasel like that.
I
I have
also do
tea
the decaf.
phases, but I have coffee probably.
I also have to do decaf. I don't do oat milk. I did the different kinds of milks for a while and then decided, coffee tastes pretty good without milk at all. So I've now moved on to
That's
black.
the cool thing to do, just black coffee, but I can't somehow.
Fair enough.
I
Yes.
tried black
Yeah.
cold brew once and I never ever did it again.
Okay.
I agree on the different types of milk, like almond milk and wheat milk. I agree. But I need the caffeine. I don't get out of bed without it. It doesn't work. It's bad.
Fair enough. You've got a young heart yet, so.
Young 45.
All right.
So the next question would be favorite comfort food.
Well, comfort food is a thing, obviously. Everything that's bad for you, I suppose.
Great. I love it.
The thing is, as a vegan, there are things that don't really work so well anymore. Cheese just isn't an option, really. I mean, you can eat stuff that is sort of yellow, but it doesn't taste like cow's cheese. You just have to go without. But other things.
Wait, you're a vegan?
Yeah, I'm vegan.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But
So also chocolate. It's okay, but it's not quite the same. So I'll probably say chips.
do you miss cheese though?
Here's the thing. Okay, do you want a
Auspicious.
vegan sermon or not?
I don't know. I'm just
I
very
know.
curious.
Of course I remember that it tastes nice, but it doesn't taste. I like on the Twitter, in the vegan bubble on Twitter, you see images that you can't sleep afterwards. And if you think of the price, it's too high. The taste in my mouth does not justify that. And also, maybe there are situations where people just have to eat what's there. I am not in that situation. I have options. And yeah, so no, it's not.
For how long have you been vegan? Just for
Before the pandemic, but
Okay.
I've been vegetarian for a long time.
Okay.
But somehow didn't make the connection because that was pre-internet and so.
I see.
Anyway.
Great point to transition out to something completely different. The next point would be, what is your favorite book?
How can you ask me that? I've agonized over this.
I mean, you can lighten that by saying one of your favorite books, and it doesn't feel as, I don't know, clandestine or whatever.
The last thing I've binged, that was actually, because I don't go on holiday because of the cats and everything. And so in February or March, when I had my holiday, this comes with inverted commas, air quotes, I was actually just trying to find novels about archaeology. So I found this British crime series by Ellie Griffiths. The protagonist is called Ruth, somebody, I forget. And she's a forensic pathologist. And she gets involved in these cases that are sometimes recent murders and sometimes old bodies. And there are 15 volumes, and the thing is, I didn't even like them that much. So it was this phenomenon of like getting into a soap opera and just watching it or binging it if you can, like on Netflix. And I wrote comments on Goodreads. This sucks and that. But I kept downloading the next one and the next one. So I don't usually read crime. It was very British. And sort of history and all the rest of it. So that's the last thing I binged. It's definitely not my favorite book, but maybe that's... And it did feel immersive. It really was like a little holiday. So
Nice. Yeah, I don't know if I get as immersed in binging books or series as I do, and this speaks to who I am and where I grew up and how I grew up. And it's video games. Like, I can get immersed in a video game and spend a week there and not even realize, oh, it's Friday now. What happened to all the days? It just happens. But my mother was an extraordinarily avid reader, and we would go to the bookstore like once a week, and she would pick up a pile of books. And then the next week we'd go again because she'd finished them all. And I was just always amazed by that. And it's probably why I started to study literature. It's like, can I get as good as her? The reason I got into it, the answer was no. I could never get as good at reading as she was. That was, and I think from her early childhood on, just, this is my binging. I can do 20 books in a week if you want. That's fine. So moving genre then, how about movies? Do you have a favorite film or film series?
Well, again, I can't commit myself, obviously, but I was talking to Jessica a couple of days ago, and for some reason she sent me a picture of Morticia Adams on WhatsApp. I forget the context, but I sort of said, hashtag partnership goals, kind of thing. And then she said that those two films are sort of her go-to comfort movies. And then I said, and I thought about that, particularly also I knew I was going to come here, and I thought maybe mine, or at least up there, is the Da Vinci Code and a particular Persuasion adaptation. There's only one. I mean, there's only one good one, Persuasion. And I'm mentioning the Da Vinci Code because maybe people think I would, spit on films like the Da Vinci Code, which obviously I have to. I'm a total sucker for the Da Vinci Code. I remember when it first came out, I gave my father the DVD and he wasn't interested. So I took it and I watched it on a loop, like the whole Christmas week, like from Christmas into the New Year and all that. I love that film.
I mean, I wasn't a fan of the film, but I just like Tom Hanks so much that I watched it. Yeah.
I read the books, all of them in complete wrong order, so I was always confused no matter which book.
This is what I actually binged and actually reread, because I don't usually reread books. And those are the series of Dan Brown where I came back and I reread them in English because I felt like it. And it's amazing. I still love the books.
Fair enough. So, lightning.
Oh, yes.
I think that part is over. It's not lightning anymore. It's just around.
It's fine.
Lightning-ish.
So we talked about your favorite-ish book or the recent one, movie, and now the favorite fictional character.
Another difficult question.
Okay, here it goes. Because I'm teaching Much Ado About Nothing at the moment, I'll say Benedict. And that won't mean anything to anyone except the people who are currently in my classes. But Benedict is one of the romantic characters in Much Ado About Nothing, which essentially has two romantic couples. And why Benedict is so amazing, this is 1598, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he and Beatrice are in a sort of enemies to lovers kind of thing. Shakespeare probably invented the enemies to lovers trope. So they've been going at each other for the whole play and telling everyone who didn't want to hear that they're never going to marry because, marriage. And then things go disastrously wrong with the other couple. And the other man shames the woman at the altar. This is the cousin of Beatrice, saying that she, slept with another man, which she didn't, so it's a jealousy plot. And Beatrice is so upset. She says, I'd kill him myself if I could, if I was a man. I'd kill him myself for this, for humiliating her like this. And then they confess their love to each other, and he sort of fancies himself a little bit like a romantic hero, and he says to her, come bid me do anything for thee. And she says, kill Claudio. And he wasn't prepared for that. So he says, not for the wide world. And she says, okay, fine. Yeah, I see. That was just hot air. You didn't mean it. And he says, okay, are you sure that Claudio hath wronged Hero? And she says, yep, absolutely sure. And he says, fine. I'll believe you. I'll challenge him. He challenges him. He stakes his life and reputation on the word of a woman he has no reason to trust. And he gives up his male friendship group. He gives up his career in the army, all just because she says, I am sure Hero wasn't unfaithful to Claudio. I can't think of any other male character in world history who does that. So, yeah, I think that's my answer to that one. Sorry.
No, that's a great answer.
I've seen the play, the one with the David Tennant version.
Yeah, see, don't even.
And I'm picturing Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson.
That's
okay.
that scene. Yeah.
But on the topic of someone who behaves very badly, I'm confused with the names already. Favorite slang term?
Probably shit and fuck.
Okay.
Very straight up forward.
You're the first person who's I know exactly what I'm going to say. These words.
Well, I realize that slang doesn't necessarily mean cursing, but
that's true.
I don't know otherwise what slang. I mean, we all use slang, right?
For sure. When I was also thinking shit and fuck, those are firmly established terms. I don't know if slang is really the appropriate term for them linguistically, but you know what? We're loose here. We can just go with it.
Those would have been my first guesses, though.
As a vegan, again, pushing this a bit, I try to avoid animal slurs. So I try to avoid, and that's not easy, actually. So I try to avoid bullshit and horse shit and things like that because, after all. And it's quite interesting to try to come up. I'm trying to use bilge more instead of pig swell or, bullshit. But then there's a danger that people won't know what it means, and then it sort of loses the. Yeah. Anyway, so that's a project.
Mm-hmm. That's a fun project. I like that.
I do swear in class, and I feel I shouldn't, but I do. I do swear in class.
Would you say there are more swearings in English than in German? Or
like
vice
curse
versa?
words altogether?
Yeah.
I think they're used
think
differently.
so.
I think it's more common in English to use certain swear words or certain words to have a certain gravitas or to add to a sentence. And I think in German, it's considered rude way more than in English.
Oh, I think that's fascinating because when I look at how people raise their children, and I look at my brother and his American family and what their kids are allowed and not allowed to say versus kids that are raised in Germany who are running around scheiße, scheiße, scheiße. And it's it's just normal here. So I feel like in the U.S. it's still very puritanical as far as language use is concerned. And people are very, especially parents, up in arms about what kind of language their children use and are exposed to. So what type do they have to, or do they listen to? I think I played a Bruno Mars song for my nephew and niece at one point, and my brother got upset with me because they were talking about hoes and who was wearing the biggest hoops, and it was like, dude, it's just a song. Like,
Don't
yeah,
tell.
but I don't want my kids singing that. And I was just like, your kids are 13 and 14. They're singing that when you're not around.
Don't tell them about Snoop Dogg ever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not British culture either. They swear a lot in British. Everything is F word. I mean, it's
Yeah.
different in America, I think, in certain.
In certain circles, for sure.
Yeah,
I just remember being in London at some point and just walking like on a street, and on the other side of the street there was like a person on the phone, and he just started exploding into the phone, just cursing about something, and in the end it's just, I was like, yeah, cheers, mate, and just hang out. And like, I was so impressed.
They
by
also
that.
have Stephen Fry, of course, who is a sort of recognized sort of public intellectual, and he is very strong in defense of swearing. So there's that.
I think it definitely adds. Although I can always remember like grandparents or teachers telling me things like, swearing is the last bastion of the moronic, and it's things like this, and it's like, well, no, I think there's creative usage of swearing and curse words as well. In fact, some of the most creative things come out of that, if you ask me.
Well, also because, like, in my family, it's, we weren't a very particularly, like, vulgar family or anything, but I am absolutely certain that I'm correct for myself and for my brothers when I say that to best my father in sort of conversation or outwit him or something, the best compliment from him would be Arschloch. because that would mean
there's concession
he's out.
in that.
Yeah, exactly. So that was something.
You got me.
No retort left except for
Yeah,
the
exactly.
curse.
Yeah. Okay, lightning.
Lightning is Oxford comma, yay or nay?
If and when, I'd say. I mean, it can generally I don't. But if I look at the sentence and I think, yeah, no, that makes no sense without the comma, then I'll use it.
No, fair enough.
So it's based on feeling, which is how I place every comma ever in English.
I do try to avoid prepositions at the end of sentences, though.
I catch myself thinking about it every now and again, and I just say, what's that about?
If you could live in any literary world, which one would it be?
Okay, I really thought about this one.
Yes.
Okay, because most of what I read is historical, fiction in some form or other. I wouldn't want to live in a world pre-penicillin. I mean, I know that we're going to live in a world post-penicillin very soon, but that's another issue. So I think from that point of view, anything before, the 1950s or 60s would be out. So I'm saying Wakanda.
Nice.
That's actually very smart.
The alternative answer to that is because it says literary world. And the first thing I thought was what I would love to be if I was, more intelligent and more hardworking and just more talented and everything. I'd like to be part of a literary world of writers, where I would have known Hilary Mantel and she would have been my friend and she would have liked my novels.
There you go.
Your novels?
That
Does it mean
is
you write
my-
your own novels?
No, I talk about it.
Okay.
I don't actually do it.
Oh, okay.
So,
I see.
I know
see,
that feeling.
lack of discipline, see above.
But I think that fits perfectly the next question, because if you could talk to like one celebrity or author or historical figure, dead or alive, who would that be?
Hilary Mantel.
And then the last question.
Wait, I think that's too lightning. Can we get a why?
I just love the last
Like,
question.
who is that for those that don't know?
Yeah, I'm not even talking to you if you don't know Hilary.
Okay,
no,
fair.
okay. Hilary Mantel. Hilary Mantel was a British writer who, for a while, for years, wrote books that were critically acclaimed, but a select minority of people read them. And then she wrote a book about Thomas Cromwell and Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, and that won the Booker. And then she wrote the sequel to that, and that won the Booker again, which made her the only woman who's ever won the Booker Prize. twice.
Mm.
And then she wrote the last one, the last one in the trilogy, and she died almost 2 years ago, which is tragic. And she was so tremendously special for various reasons. She's someone that when I sort of listen to interviews and everything, particularly when she's shown sort of in her home, I have an enormous impulse to protect her. And also I'm scared of her because she's so, she's so bright and everything. And even just to feel these two impulses so strong is interesting. So yeah, Hilary Mantel is.
Have you ever managed to meet her? Because some authors do meet and greet and stuff.
Also, I mean, in real life, I'd never dare because I wouldn't know how. Like, I'm so terrified of boring. You wouldn't think it when you come to my classes, but I'm actually terrified of boring people. So I would never claim her time, even if I had been in a situation where theoretically I could have walked up to her and said, "Oh, you're great."
I feel like a lot of people dream of meeting someone like an actor or an author or someone, but when you ask them, like, what would you do if you meet them?
Yeah, exactly.
They're just short circuit. Like
stare. They basically stare.
Hi. And that's it, basically. Because those people are those that like go to fan meetings or like stand on the line when the actor goes into some movie premiere or something, and they're just like, I'm Dave, and that's it, because they don't know what to say or do, because that's not how it works usually. You don't get a normal conversation.
Well, and in what social situation is it normal to just walk up to somebody and to say, I know I'm a complete stranger, but I feel like I know you, and I want you to love me.
Based on what you have published online, what I see in movies or like an interview, therefore I know who you are.
Exactly. That's a very strange impulse.
And I think it's an absolute horror that actors now in these popular series have to do this endless online shit. Not just the press junket with the endlessly the same questions, but these games and the have you ever and which would you rather and the what do you know about each other. It's like, look,
and
I'm
how
an
many
actor.
hot wings can you eat?
Yeah, exactly. I'm an actor. Just watch my. I totally respect Cillian Murphy for example, for just not going in for that. Anyway. That's
I feel like,
by the way,
like the whole social media thing, it's at this point is for most of them part of the job. So if you can't do that, you're basically destined to at some point fail or fall off.
Well, I think that's literally in their contracts. Like they get the money for the film for sure, but inside the small print, they have to go ahead and do marketing just before the movie releases and all of that good stuff.
There was like a documentation on an actress where she participated in the movie, and it was clear that she would become more famous than she is right now. And they told her, pick something. Pick a shtick you're gonna stick to for the next 20 years, something that you represent. Like, do you care for animals? Do you care for human rights? Do you care for children? Pick something that you can represent and you can talk about whenever. Okay. Something good that you can, where you can travel to Africa and make good pictures, or travel to the year, or do that, or
the charities you're going to support.
Choose your charity basically, and that was like you have to do this for 20 years now. Pick something now so you can say this is the good thing I support, and that's so scary to me and so blatant. And then people watch some top model or some actor traveling to Africa and say like, oh, I helped these children. I'm like, yeah, but you also took 20,000 pictures and posted online about 5,000 times for a certain reason.
All right. So, lightning.
Very, very frightening.
Okay, the last question. Brian, it's actually your turn. Do you want to ask the question?
Oh, should I ask this question?
Yes.
All right. Angela, this is the surprise question.
I was going to say, I thought that was it.
Yeah. Leon versus Kate in a pistol duel. Who's going to win?
Oh, Kate. No, because I think when it came down to it, you'd have scruples and Kate wouldn't.
Nice.
I love how every person is picking Kate, but for a different reason.
Really?
Yes. Kate wanted to have like some sort of us matching against each other, and I was like, okay, if we have to pick something, let's choose, I don't know, pistol duels or something. And ever since then, everyone has picked
I think it's
Kate.
even more obvious if I think not you shooting each other, but you shooting someone out there who's doing something wrong. I think Kate wouldn't hesitate. You might hesitate.
So we're saying Kate is Batman and Leon is a Robin. Ouch.
I think it's more
Does
like
Batman kill? Batman never
I feel
kills.
like Leon is
Depends
Batman
on which
and Kate
Batman.
is the
Okay.
Joker.
So what I thought would be, sorry,
It's
Yeah,
fine.
didn't
Sure,
want to cut you
take over.
no, I thought an interesting addition to your list would be YouTube channels. You've we talk about soap operas and everything, but really it's YouTube channels. And you said the rabbit hole thing, and I'd like to know sort of which YouTube channels you follow.
Oh god.
Oh, wow.
A lot of sports. I watch a lot of parkour videos.
Yeah, I
because
do. Storror.
Storror.
Storror,
Yes,
I
yes.
They're so
The
amazing.
new video released today. I haven't watched it yet. It's over an hour long.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
because the last ones were a bit meh.
yeah.
I thought.
I'm really
Yeah.
excited. It's a Storror versus I think Birmingham or Brighton.
Oh, okay.
I'm really looking forward to it. And then I fell my last rabbit hole I fell into was first mechanics in America, and then it was true crime, which is the most typical thing ever. I'm trying to get away from that because it's just gives a very bad impression of America.
Surprise.
Yeah, I love those like body cam videos where they stop drunken drivers and they just have the most fun sobriety test. Not sobriety. It's what is it? It's
Sometimes it's just conversations,
it's just
not
so-
even the tests.
and besides that, it's just a lot of history and literature and stuff. Like it's parkour, sports, and
Yeah, but just sort of like Storror, people who have channels and like stuff where you either subscribe actually or come back to and know on Monday they post a new thing and something that you regularly check up on.
it's
Not I watch history documentaries.
no, it's definitely Storror. But
Yeah.
if there's like a channel I would have to recommend to every student of this that has to do something with American maybe is it's I think called something Witty Productions or something. I showed it to you, Brian, at some point. It was they have a video series about slavery in America and if it was and the history of it and basically conservative media or conservative arguments for and against it and like normal people's views at this point, more or less. And it's super interesting. It's
Was this the guys that were dressed in different
yes,
uniforms?
it's basically a conservative general and what is the other side again? How would you frame them? Conservative versus
I don't know if we're talking about conservatives. That
no.
you were talking about Union and Confederate.
yeah, Union and Confederate, right?
Okay.
It's basically someone dressed
U.S. Civil War, by the
it's
way.
a Union general and a Confederate general, and them talking about if slavery was the reason the Confederates seceded from the Union. Seceded, and it's super interesting, and they go in so much detail. And the best thing is, they cite really well. So when they talk about a source, there's a link. It is that you can find it. They talk about the author, where it comes from. Everything is there. So
Nice.
as an academic, I love that I can just click on it and read where they got it from, and not just someone saying, "Yeah, I read this in a book about something," and you never know where they got it from and if it's actually sightful, useful, true. And in this way, I'm so happy about this. This is how you do it right if you talk about history and academic topics. I'm just so happy about this.
Wow.
And it's good for PM2 and PM4 if you do American history. This is how I learned a lot about slavery. This is what got me into the topic.
Whatever twisted avenue gets you there, it doesn't bother me at all.
But if not academia, Storror. Yes. I love it so much. Kate.
I don't do YouTube.
Okay, Brian.
I was kind of in the same boat as you, Kate, for a second, because there are different things I do on YouTube that are present elsewhere. So I'm a big podcast listener. Like I have a 45-minute drive every time I leave my house or leave the university. So a podcast is really nice because I don't have to focus on video and I can just listen to things. But there are lots of podcasters that have their stuff on YouTube. So I could say things like Your Mom's House with Tom Segura and Christina Pajitsky. They have a really disgusting podcast, which it's funny, but they are kind of very below the belt comedians. And then there's things like Take Your Shoes Off with Rick Glassman. He's got, I don't watch his video very often, but they do some very high-end production stuff with his video from his podcast. So they'll add animations and things like this. And Paul Giamatti has a podcast as well. And it's all about weird things. I have to remember the title of the podcast. The Chin Wag.
Oh.
What a name.
And he does it with a philosophy professor. And they talk about weird stuff like Bigfoot or aliens or sea creatures of different historical periods or the melon heads of certain West Virginian communities. So it's all this kind of very, I don't know, mythological stuff. And they also do a YouTube video with animation to go along with certain parts of it. I don't think they spend as much money as Rick Glassman does. So those would be my kinds of things on YouTube.
Another podcast I listened to you based on your recommendation was the one concerning Scrubs, where they rewatch the episodes and talk about
Real
the
friends, not real doctors or something.
Yeah. Fake doctors, real friends.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that so much. I listened to, I binged a lot of them, and then at some point I couldn't because I had to do something with my life. But it was so entertaining, especially since if you watch it, I think on YouTube or somewhere, you see certain clips from the show, and then they talk about the clips and how they did it and all the context, and it's super interesting. Especially if you, like me, grew up with the show.
Right.
And they're actual friends.
No, I don't do podcast either. It's just it's interesting to produce the podcast, to be behind the curtains, to actually produce content, but to consume content, it's not something that I actually enjoy. Like, I try to listen to some podcasts, and I would rewind and then to try to, get the information. Although I understand that it has to be something in the background, and for my background, I can have some music that I know by heart, for example.
I showed you my setup recently. I have a big monitor, and I was writing a paper, and I had the monitor split into 3 different segments. One was writing the paper, one was the sources, one was a YouTube video, and the background was music.
Oh my!
Like real ADHD are kicking in. It was so bad. It was a Storror video on the right, and then there was Citavi in the middle and Word on the left, and in the background there was music.
Oh no, I would be overstimulated very fast by that.
Nice. All right, Angela, I feel like we have to turn the question around to you then. YouTube, where are you at if you're wandering around the YouTubes?
Well, there are the rabbit holes, of course, but okay, one that I've been following, it's actually quite interesting. I don't know how I ever got onto that. Britain's largest family. There's a family in the northwest of England where I actually spent 3 weeks a few years ago, and they have 23 children.
Wow.
It's one couple, and they have 23 children.
How old are the parents?
Well, they started when she was 14.
Oh.
All
right.
So, yeah, it's not unproblematic, but they're not religious or anything. They were both adopted. So that's interesting. And there's clearly a sort of thing going on, like, we don't give our babies away. And then every year they need a new baby that they don't give away. So it's clearly about having babies.
You said Northwest, are they Catholic?
No.
Oh.
No, they were adopted. That's all it is.
That's all it is.
They're not even. No, they're not. They're nothing. They're ordinary people.
What? Can you call them ordinary people?
No, I mean there is no. Sorry, that came out wrong.
Totally on your side, by the way. Catholics are not ordinary people.
No, I mean there is.
I agree.
There is no Überbau kind of situation
Sorry, Catholics.
going on.
I'm not.
Yeah, no.
I'm not at all.
And it started. It was really interesting when they started. There was sort of a few programs about them actually, and then they went private, as it were, and did their own channel. And now you can see how their earnings from the YouTube thing changes the family dynamics. Now they have quite a lot of money. They didn't used to have a lot of money, and now it's all about consumption. And buying shit, quite, frankly. And so it's not nearly as interesting as it used to be. But just, I like watching people who live completely different lives. And I mean, American mechanics would be that. I just happen not to be interested in cars.
Neither
so that's
am I.
the one. I follow a couple of sailing channels. Well, people sail, have been sailing for years. That kind of thing. Storror. Yeah.
What I
Dom Tomato,
occasionally
not
do.
so much, because I think he's crazy.
Yeah, he's doing stuff where I'm drawing
And
the
it's
line.
getting because he's getting older, and I feel he doesn't know how to deal with that, and he's really
Yeah,
self-destructing.
Yeah, he's doing... so, for those that don't know, Storror and Dom Tomato are both parkour and freerunning channels. Storror is a group, Dom Tomato is a single individual. And he's doing very high jumps and very far distances and very high drops. And it's very bad for your ankles and for your joints everywhere and for your legs. So it's very dangerous, especially the older you get. And he's doing stuff where other people have drawn the line ages ago. And he's still doing it and putting on more
damaging
and more.
himself. I
Yeah.
mean, his ankles are shot, and he shows you what his feet look like, and he's like, yeah, no, it doesn't really hurt. So
He
he's
lost the
like the
feeling,
flip side.
basically,
He's
yeah.
the doctor. Alex Honnold is another one. It's just the horror of watching Alex Honnold. He's a freak. Well, he's a climber, but he also does these solo climbs, like without any gear on. And he's in
Free climbing, basically, right?
free climbing. Yeah, in Yosemite, he climbs these. I mean, the maddest thing or the most impressive thing, I don't know. He climbed for 2.5 hours, I think, up a essentially vertical cliff face.
Whoa.
And you watch it and you can't look, but you can't look away. I mean, I think he's probably the most amazing human being. That's a stupid statement, but what he's like. Totally a different species, I feel, from most of us. I don't know how he's amazing.
Even Storror, who are trying to be as safe as possible, they have a lot of injuries over the years. Like Toby can't use a certain finger anymore to a certain degree because there's just nothing on this. There's no muscle on this finger anymore or something.
And they take risks.
They take risks, but
They talk about the Storror safety team.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing the Storror safety team has previously cleared. No, it's a fiction. There is no Storror safety team. So they jump into lakes, into rivers, and you think, are you permanently on antibiotics? How? What? No.
Parkour is usually very dangerous. You need to know how far you can go. They have been doing this for over 16 years. And they every
have
single
experience.
time they do a disclaimer like, don't copy what we do. Don't try it. We are professionals. We have done this for years. We correct ourselves. We train every single day to know where our limits are. Don't do this at home. And there are still people who jump from one building to another and hurt themselves or do this or do that. And they also have drawn the lines, and the YouTube guidelines also have drawn the lines for them, where they can't upload injuries anymore or can't upload certain videos anymore. And
I'm getting flashes of Jackass and Steve-O and things like this.
it's not that bad, because Jackass is just let's do crazy stuff where we hurt each other or dive into poop, and they're more trying to do exercise or do certain things. But there are videos where it's getting close to that level. But there are other videos where they're just having fun. Like recently they did a straight line marathon where they just walked in a straight line.
That's brutal.
It was
That
brutal,
was
but it was
brutal.
so fun to watch.
The thing also, what I think a lot of viewers like, it's 7 guys from the south of England, and the commentators say this. They are such great friends. And the dynamics between they don't have this. Sorry, I'm talking as an outsider. This male shit of it's so funny you broke your arm, haha. Let's laugh like hyenas. This Schadenfreude thing. They don't do that at all.
They care for each other.
They care for each other. They're extremely supportive. They are very. They explain this. Don't egg the other one on. They need their time, and if they don't make the jump when they feel that they are ready for it. That's completely irresponsible. And the way they are with each other is. I'm still a middle-aged woman. It's impressive what they do, but I watch it sort of probably more for the relationships actually than.
I'm just so happy that there's a segment where they talk about mental health and also about how it is performing for others. We don't like it if there are too many people around us because it distracts us. It's also pressure. Because then you might do something you usually wouldn't do because people are watching.
Right.
And that's bad, and we don't want that. And one of them is also, he got hurt a while back, and he gained weight, and they're super supportive of him. They don't leave him behind. They don't say, you can't do this. They motivate him, but they know his limits, and he knows his. And he's like, hey, if I fall into the water, it's happening, but I'm participating, but I also know my limits. and no one of them is like shaming him or saying something about what he's looking like, how he's behaving, what he can or can't do. And even though they're all athletes and they're trained, it's not this, oh, look how well I look or what my body can do, or it's only about performance and what they can do. And that's what I like. It's not this fitness looking great thing. Also, they're all British, so their teeth are all over the place, which I love so much.
Fair enough.
And
Callum and
Sasha.
Sasha are so great. I love them so much.
Yeah, all right. So,
well, I still have a question left that doesn't have to do anything with YouTube or channels or parkour, that I would be interested if you could answer that, Angela. So what was the reason that you, pursued a career for English and American studies?
Hard cut.
Well, I like reading, and I don't come from an academic household, so I wasn't brought up, so I had no reaction against it, is what I'm saying. I also never did Shakespeare at school, which I think is probably, on the whole, an advantage, because it wasn't spoiled for me. Mm-hmm. And then I went to England as an au pair, and I did an A-level course there with, older people who were doing it in an adult education center. And we read Richard II. And I'd watched Much Ado About Nothing. That was my first Shakespeare on the British television, which we had at home. And I couldn't make head or tails of the play. It was like, I try to think back to that when I make people read Shakespeare now. And he, the crown is taken away from him, and he cries all the time, and he has these long self-pitying speeches, and I thought, oh, bloody hell. And then this touring company came to near where I was staying, and my host mother said, you're going. They were doing the histories. Mm-hmm. So I booked a ticket for Richard II. I had a crush on the actor who played Richard before the play even started, because of the posters. And that day changed my life. It's as simple as that. And then I started reading around and the theatre stuff, and then I thought I wanted to study English and something useful, or history and something useful, because I thought I can't do both, because I didn't want to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. So I slight detour, but then I ended up studying English and history, and I was about to change universities because German professors of Shakespeare anyway. Mm-hmm. They were so German. And I'd sort of been socialized, of course, in Britain for all of this, and I thought, God, this is so boring, and they're all dead, from the head down, dead, and I'm not staying. But then we got a new professor for Renaissance studies, and he was English. Mm-hmm. So I had my little sort of English enclave at Münster.
But did you study here in Bielefeld, or
no, in Münster?
In Münster, okay.
So what brought you to Bielefeld in the end?
A job.
Oh, fair enough.
Having to make a living. I was extremely fortunate because my job was running out in Münster, and I got a job here.
You didn't want to be a teacher, but in the end you were a teacher.
No, I'm a teacher. Well, the things I think that are so trying about being a school teacher, you don't have here. Like, we don't have parents to contend with. And we don't have parents who are lawyers, and if it came to it, we'd have the same problem. They just happen far, far, far less frequently. Mm-hmm. And also we don't have a rector who, at least not yet, says you have to pass so and so many of your class. Otherwise, the liberty that you have at university is still, it's an enormous privilege, I feel, that we have.
I would agree with that sentiment 100%.
Having said that, I think post-entrance test, and now with K-12, which is fortunately coming to an end, it does feel like teaching school children often enough.
Sometimes, for sure.
And I'm saying that with love. Ish. People have no way of assessing whether they should be doing this. Mm-hmm. And so they find out that they shouldn't be doing this as they're doing it. But then they've committed and they don't want to acknowledge that they shouldn't be doing it and they don't have an alternative. So I think at the moment, and also post-pandemic, we have a problem at the moment.
There's no test run you can do on most things. Like you can't. I think it should be established
it's
more.
It's a lot of things coming together. Yeah. It's not knowing what Anglistic is, which is where we started.
Right.
It's also not seeing alternatives. What should work? No. To make money, yes, but not as a proper thing. I think there are also, literacy is coming to an end. I think we're living at the end of the era where people actually read longer texts. So we are definitely Titanic, I think.
Well, we continue to polish the brass on the Titanic as we go down.
Yeah.
Can't wait to watch Henry V in TikTok format or something.
Wouldn't be surprised to see it very soon, or it probably already exists, if I'm honest.
Every act in 30 seconds.
While there are still people who make TikToks like that, there are still people who engage with these old texts. So I think that's not as bad as it's going to get.
And I don't think that as a discipline, literature or cultural studies is going to die away. But, it continues to broaden. Just the genres of literature continue to broaden with every new media that we get. And, depending on how you define literature and what is a text, etc. This is certainly something that, canonical 16th century writings have to compete against, a 21st century TikTok. I bet you can watch the TikTok in 30 seconds, and that'll give you that dopamine shot that you want for having finished something. And then the text. Oof.
You won't have the sense of achievement, though.
Fair.
I think that's anyway. So it's a complex.
I have no social media whatsoever. I'm so happy that nothing of this just is relating to me in any way.
You're pretending YouTube isn't a social media of sorts.
If I'm not engaging with people, no.
If you're not looking at the comments section or whatever.
Really, no.
Fair enough. But still, to a certain extent, we're talking about the same phenomenon in YouTube.
I am one of those people. I have disabled my watch history and recommendations on YouTube. So I don't get shorts. I don't get recommendations. I only get what I have subscribed to. And on the side, videos based on that. But I don't have a recommendation page at all. I have it limited so much, so I don't have all of this shebang from everywhere.
Yeah, just wait until you have kids and their history is mingled in with your history.
Cocomelon.
No, I was thinking more about all the AFMAO YouTube, Minecraft stories that I have to wade through on my recommendation list to get to something that I actually watch.
I was sitting in the train recently, and there was students or school kids talking about skibbity something, and it blew my mind just listening to them. They used words. I didn't know which language they were speaking. I didn't feel like English, and it didn't feel like German. And it was just I'm lost here. I'm old. I'm 440, it feels like. I have no idea what they're saying at all.
Stay young, Leon. In relation to you, I have to remember where my age is. So stay young, Leon, as long as you can. All right. I feel like this is us drawing towards a close. Thank you so much, Angela. You've been very generous with your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And Leon, always a pleasure. Kate, always a privilege. And this is then Anglisten Assemble signing off. Excelsior, everybody. See you next time.
Give you a try. If you do well, you can go a long way. But if you fail,
the producers pledge that they will produce
you
only
can go a long way
recordings
too.
which will contribute to your musical enjoyment and successfully meet your high-quality standards.
This episode of Anglisten Assemble was privately produced as a joint nonprofit informational project of students and staff at the beautiful Bielefeld University. All views and opinions expressed on the show in no way reflect the official views of the university and are solely the perspectives of our hosts and guests. Information provided is true to the best of our knowledge at the time of production, but this is naturally subject to change as some details are time sensitive. Anglisten Assemble is produced and edited by Kate Lee, Leon Dalashel, and Brian Rosema for the private use of our quality audience. If you want to get updates and further info about Anglisten Assemble, check out our Insta at anglisten.assemble. And if you're enjoying what you hear, throw us a 5-star review on Spotify. Those help us spread the word and get more Anglisten to join the assembly. Musical accompaniment today includes the sonic stylings of music from allesgimafrei.de. And finally, we'd like to thank our special guest today, the amiably adroit Angela Stock.